The nickname is Moderately Handsome Dad. He is a 35-year-old man. His occupation is office worker, and his education level is a graduate school. One person's egogram is analyzed by comparing it with the average. In other words, we look at the person's scores in relation to the average. When we first look at this graph, we see a structure where warmth and thought stand in front together. What catches the eye first is that the three front ego states are clearly higher than the overall average. NP is 41 points. A is 37 points. CP is also 37 points. By contrast, FC is 29 points, which is lower than the average. SC is 25 points, the lowest among the 6 ego states. A C is not very low, but it is not strong enough to push aside the 3 front ego states. In one sentence, this graph shows a person whose energy is familiar with caring warmly, organizing through thought, and holding on through responsibility. Rather than pushing his own mind forward first, it is more natural for him to look at people and situations first. If we look a little more closely, it is most natural to read this husband as a structure led by NP and A together. If we look only at the absolute score, NP is the highest. So at the base of this person, a strong flow of care and consideration is clearly present. However, when we look at the gap from the average line in the graph, A also stands out very strongly. Because of this, this husband is warm on the inside, but in everyday encounters, he may look like someone who analyzes and organizes first. To put it simply, the inner driving force is warmth, but the first impression that appears on the outside is closer to thought and organization. Now let's read each ego state. We are looking at what often appears and what tends to be pushed back. The highest ego state in the graph is NP. This means that in daily life, this husband is very likely to show an attitude of looking at the other person first, accepting them, and trying to help. When someone looks tired or distressed, it may be difficult for him to simply pass by. In relationships, he easily leans towards seeing the other person's needs before his own convenience. Because of this, people around him may feel that he is a really decent person or someone we can trust and lean on. A is also much higher than the average. Because of this, the features of this ego state are likely to appear quite clearly in his everyday relationships. This husband tries to understand the situation first, organize information, and judge what is appropriate, rather than responding only with emotion. When someone shares a concern, he may try to see the structure first, rather than cry together with the person. The other person may experience him as calm and rational. Because of this, his consideration is likely to come out more in the form of explanation and organization than emotional expression. In a sense, the warmth of NP comes out wearing the language of A. CP is also clearly higher than the average. Because of this, his sense of principles, responsibility, and things that must be done often appears. This person finds it difficult to casually pass over work he has taken on. If he has promised something to someone, he tends to take responsibility for it until the end. However, CP seems more natural when it moves together with NP and A. In other words, this husband is less likely to use CP by sharply pointing things out and pushing forward alone. He's more likely to use it by thinking about a good direction, organizing the right path, and trying to take that responsibility himself. By contrast, FC is lower than the average. Because of this, the energy of enjoyment, spontaneity, playfulness, and moving as he wants stands relatively less in front. For this husband, responsibility may turn on before fun. Even in a resting place, it may take time before his mind fully relaxes. Even when there is something he wants to do, he may first think, is it okay to do this now? SC is much lower than the average, and it is the lowest among the 6 ego states. This ego state is connected with pushing forward one's own color, building a center in one's own way, and the axis that says, I will go this way. But because this part is low, this husband is more used to carrying a role from behind than stepping forward like the main character. He may not want to stand out. he may not want to display his existence strongly. Instead, he is likely to confirm his own value by quietly doing his part. A C is not very high, above the average, but it is clearly operating. Because of this husband is not someone who simply follows only his own mind. His sense of looking at the situation, watching other people's reactions, and reducing unnecessary conflict is alive. This makes relationships smoother, but if it goes too far, it can also make him push his own needs back once again. If we turn this graph into an everyday scene, it looks like this. When someone says they are having a hard time, this husband finds it difficult to pretend not to know, but his response may not come out loudly through tears or emotional exclamation. It may come out through the language of thought. Where is the problem? What should be done first? In other words, his heart toward people is warm, but his actual expression may be analytical. Because of this, others may feel this way. This person is not without affection, but he tries to solve things first. He is warm, but he is more rational than emotional. He is considerate, but he shows that consideration through explanation and responsibility. This difference is important. Inside this husband, NP is strongly present, but in everyday encounters, A may appear more clearly in front than the average. Because of this, he may feel that he is helping, while the other person may feel that they are being evaluated or organized first. This is a small mismatch that can appear in relationships. The intention is warm, but the delivery can be calm and firm. Now let's look at parenting environment and emotional climate. Why might this graph have been formed? This graph reminds us of the trace of someone for whom it may have been safer from childhood to read the flow of the family before his own needs. The combination of high NP, high A, high ECP, low FC, and low SC fits well with a structure in which care, understanding, and responsibility grew early. Regardless of whether this husband was biologically the firstborn, emotionally, he may have been a psychological firstborn. He may have been in a position where he first noticed who was struggling in the family. Maintaining the atmosphere may have mattered more than expressing his own hurt. If I endure it, it will be fine. If I understand it, it will be fine. Right now, I have to be mature. When messages like these are repeated, NP and A grow early. By contrast, the voices of FC and SC are easily pushed back. I also want to do this. I also feel hurt. This time I want to stand in front. Those voices may have had less room to appear. When a climate that values standards and responsibility overlaps with this structure, CP can also grow together. Because of this husband may have become not only a warm person, but a person who practices warmth through responsibility and organization. The problem is that this structure worked too well. If being kind, understanding, capable, and mature receives praise for a long time, a person learns how to keep their role before learning how to bring out their own needs. This husband's maturity is clearly a strength. But if that maturity grew too early, then behind it, there may also be fatigue from taking care of his own mind late. Now let's look at life position. On the outside, he may look fine, but inside, this can be a structure where he takes care of himself late. In terms of life position, this husband's graph can be read as leaning toward I'm not okay / you're okay. This is because NP toward others is very high, while FC and SC, which push forward his own needs and his own color, are relatively low. This combination is usually connected with a structure that is open toward you can be understood first, but cautious toward I may put my own mind forward first. Because of this, even if this person is objectively capable, he may feel inside that he always has to do a little better. Even when he is doing well, he may think that it is still not enough. By contrast, he understands other people's circumstances relatively easily. He can easily develop a habit of affirming the other person first and pushing his own share back. This life position looks very smooth from the outside. It makes relationships gentle, reduces conflict, and gives people around him a sense of stability. However, if he continues for a long time, quiet fatigue builds up inside him. Others become comfortable, but he himself may become unable to rest. We can also look at this through strokes and stroke economy. He is a person who is used to giving and unskilled at receiving. This graph fits well with the flow of strokes or recognition stimuli. When he was young, this husband may have been recognized not so much for his existence itself, but for being kind, mature, and helpful. When someone grows that way, it is easy to learn messages like these. I am safe when I am helpful. I am loved when I do not create problems. I have value when I look after others before my own needs. Then the person becomes used to giving strokes to others. He is good at taking care of the other person, adjusting to them, helping them, and organizing things for them. However, he may not absorb the strokes he receives very well. Even when he receives praise, he may pass it over by saying, "This much is only natural." Asking for help can easily feel like being a burden. Because of this husband can easily become a structure of high output outward and low absorption inward. He keeps giving, but his own inside is not truly filled. Now let's look at strengths and weaknesses. Why does this person's warmth become trust? And why can it also become fatigue? This husband's greatest strength is reliability. When NP, A, and CP are high together, a person usually does not treat others carelessly, does not pass over work irresponsibly, and tries to take responsibility in relationships. Because of this husband is likely to be read as someone who can be trusted and entrusted with work, both in an organization and at home. The second strength is care with thought. This person is not simply kind. He sees who is having difficulty, thinks about what is needed, and tries to move toward what is actually helpful. Consideration and judgment move together. This is a very large asset. However, this structure also has clear costs. First, he notices his own needs late. Second, guilt easily attaches when he enjoys something. Third, placing his own color in front may feel awkward. Fourth, if he keeps saving others for too long, the center of his own life keeps moving outward. Because of this husband may receive the evaluation that he is a good person, while inside, he may feel that he is slowly drying out. We also need to look at the parts that can become weaknesses in relationships. A warm intention is not always delivered warmly. This husband's weakness is not coldness. In fact, it may be the opposite. He may take responsibility too easily, understand too quickly, and push his own share back too often. When NP and A are high together, the desire to organize problems and set direction for the other person grows. But when this repeats, the other person may receive help and feel burdened at the same time. This person always knows better than I do. My chance to try it myself is reduced. This kind of feeling may appear. Also, this husband is originally a warm person, but in relationship scenes, A is likely to appear first. Because of this, a spouse or close person may feel, "You always try to solve it," or "You talk about the right answer before my emotion." This is not because there is no love. It is because warmth comes out first, wearing the clothing of thought. The direction of tuning is to turn part of the energy that has been shining on others back toward himself. What this husband needs is not to tear apart his personality. It is not to throw away his good points. The goal is not to weaken his already strong NP, A, and CP. What is needed is to maintain that energy while gradually awakening the pushed back FC and the sleeping SC. First, before helping someone, he needs to check his own state. He needs to practice looking at the fatigue in his own body before looking at the other person's expression. Second, when he receives a request, he needs to practice not answering immediately. Just pausing for one beat allows A, on his own side, to begin operating. Third, he needs to practice receiving praise as it is, instead of analyzing it and letting it pass by. Practicing so that thank you comes before no, not at all, is a small tuning that reopens the stroke absorption circuit. Fourth, he needs to allow small enjoyment. Small enjoyment comes before large change. That slowly awakens low FC. Fifth, he needs to check his self-frame of moderately. It can look like humility, but at times it may also be a defense that avoids expectation and disappointment in advance. This husband's nickname is Moderately Handsome Dad. There is a light joke in this expression, but at the same time, there may also be a mind that does not want to expect too much or stand too far in front. Because of this, what this person needs is not to suddenly become the main character. It is to gradually allow small enjoyment, a small self-voice and small self-choices. To summarize, this husband is a person who holds warm sunlight and a clear mirror together. This husband's egogram is very clear. He is not a cold person. He is a warm person. However, that warmth comes out first as organization rather than tears, responsibility rather than admiration, and judgment rather than spontaneity. When we look at the graph, NP and A stand in front together. Because of this, he looks after others well, understands well, and organizes well. CP supports that energy through responsibility. By contrast, FC and SC are pushed back. Because of this, his own enjoyment and his own voice are likely to come out late. This person's task is not to live even harder. He has already lived hard enough. What is needed now is to turn part of the sunlight that has been shining on others back toward himself. If he can allow the small voice of his own mind a little more, this husband's warmth can become a longer lasting strength instead of a self-sacrifice.